Hello folks, Mike Colombo here. I just thought I'd give you a very quick overview of how my new game Battles of Napoleonic Europe works. For those who might be interested, I will do a quick look video flicking through the actual game book when I have a finalised copy, and I will do a full instructional playthrough as usual. But I thought it might be useful just to do a very short video on how generally the game works, without going into any detail of the rules at all, really. So what we've generally got is 10 battles. Each battle has two versions of it. So I've got the two battles here for one of the battles, and you can see that they're more or less the same thing, but sort of the other way around, if you like. So you get to play both battles twice, once as the British and Allied forces and once as the French on this one. You're always fighting from the bottom. The maps they vary a little bit, so they're not exact copies, and some of them are, the battles are done from a different angle or whatever, but generally you get to do them both. They're individually designed. They both have their AI pages with them, which would be the page next to it as usual. And the AI is individually designed for all 20 scenarios, so they will do different things depending on whether they're generally defending or generally attacking, or whatever else may be the case. Each battle has an objective. It's not usually to completely eliminate the other side. That's not. There are one or two of those, I think, but not too many. It's usually about sort of taking particular hexes and occupying them, or pushing the enemy back. Having more units than them at the end, or there's killing the commander, not losing your own commander, getting units through to the top of the map. I'm sure there are others as well. They're quite varied objectives across the games, across the various battles, so lots to have a go at. There's a bit of random setup generally, and again, it's not the same for every battle, but usually there's a line across for your forces, which you have to put. You have to put your forces below that line. You can see over on this one the line is here, so you'd have to put all your forces down in this corner. Again, that does vary. Sometimes you'll have a strip in the middle where you have to put your forces. And different things like that. The AI set up semi-randomly, so there is randomness to it, but there's also some sense to it. So it's not, it's not just a complete random setup, but it will be different each time you play. For the majority of battles, there might be one or two where it's reasonably static, but or fixed, I should say. The AI does move in this one. It does exactly what you do, so the same kind of things. It moves, it attacks, and the infantry can go in and out of square formation as well as a kind of defensive measure. There are 4 units generally. We have a commander here, we have infantry units, and we have cavalry units, and we have finally an artillery unit there. The number of models, figures, I guess, on the counters represents the strength of those counters. So they start at full strength. So you can see infantry are 3, cavalry are 3, the commander is just 1, although that represents, the commander and his forces, I don't know, advisors, all those kinds of guys that will be with him, and an artillery, which starts at 2 there. As they take damage or hits, then they are reduced. So if you're using the counters from the game, you would, for example, replace that infantry with a 2 strength infantry if it, takes some damage, and then with a 1 strength infantry, and then obviously be removed from the game after that. So there is that aspect to it. So very quickly, how the game plays generally: there's a turn limit here, because there's 10 turns. And you have to achieve the objective by the 10th turn. Sometimes the objective is assessed at the 10th turn, so you will always go the whole way and then assess whether you won or not. But there is a turn counter there. Generally what happens is you will roll 3 dice, and they will determine the areas in which you can move units, okay? So I guess in that sense, it's a little like the Commands and Colours games. That's kind of been a bit of an influence on me here, but it is significantly different, very different to those games. But certainly I've acknowledged in the book that there is some influence from those games, because I love those games. But obviously this is completely solo, completely solitaire game. It's not card based like they are. It's it's completely different. The map is generally split into 5 areas, hence the numbering along here, and each area consists of 2 columns of hexes. So if I roll 2, 3, 4, I would put those dice on there, and I'd be able to activate all the units in those areas. There is some mitigation for that. So for example, 6s are wild, as long as my commander is alive. So for a 6-die roll, I can put that on any number I like. I can only put 1 die per area. Also, I can re-roll once any number of dice as well. So you know, there is scope to kind of manufacture activations in the right areas, but it's not guaranteed, and that's the kind of fog of war aspect of this game. Once you have allocated your areas, then, as I say, you can activate every unit within the area, and you can then you get a free choice of what you want to do. There's no further rolling of die to decide actions or anything. So they can move. Generally, everything moves 1 square except the cavalry and the commander. They move 2 or up to 2. They can attack, obviously, if they're within range. Infantry have a range of 3. Everything else, the cavalry and the commander has a range of 1, and the artillery has a range of 6 hexes, although that can only fire along straight rows of hexes, so there's some limitation there. So that's what you do, and the AI then does more or less the same. There's slightly different mechanic for how they assess, how they allocate their dice. Obviously, they tend to roll 4 dice. And again, depending on whether the commander is alive, they have ways of mitigating, sort of rolling the same, because that's no use, because you can only put 1 die on each number. And they have ways of mitigating 6s, which are no use to them, because they can't, you know, decide what to put that on. So that's why they get 4 die. In the vast majority of AI turns, it will turn out, you know, just the way it works, it will turn out, as you'll see when you play the game, they will allocate 3 dice, the same as you. But sometimes they do, if they get lucky, they can allocate 4, which gives them a slight edge sometimes. Obviously, both sides could only allocate 2. If, you know, for example, if you end up with 2 doubles, then, you know, you got the 2 and the 4, the duplicates are no use, so you will then only allocate, you only be able to activate in those 2 areas. So as far as the player is concerned, this is the first big decision, is you know, allocating these areas. You may roll a 5, for example, and a 3 and a 4, and you might think, great, I can activate the majority of my forces. However, you know, I really need to activate this cavalry over here because, you know, I don't know, maybe there's a bit of a attack coming down this flank, and you're a bit concerned about it. You want to get somebody out there. The question then becomes, you know, what do I re-roll, if any, to try and get this 1 or a 6, which would allow me to activate this, of course, if the commander's still alive. So there's some choice then about, well, do I re-roll 2, which gives me a good chance of getting a 1 or a 6 to activate this, or do I re-roll them all, or how, you know, how desperate am I to activate these, because, you know, are they attacking over here, and so on. So that's, you know, in itself a sort of mini game, if you like, or mini, you know, decision, well, quite a major decision making exercise. Then obviously you've got to decide, you know, where you're moving and you know, when you're attacking and all that kind of stuff, how aggressive you want to be. That'll depend on the turn counter and the objectives for the scenario, whether you are generally defending or whether you are generally attacking in that particular scenario, and so on. The AI then does exactly the same. As I say, they will allocate their dice accordingly, decide, you roll for them and decide what, you know, what they've got up here. They can't use 6s, but, you know, say they end up with this, then again they will activate all the units in those areas from their end, and they will follow the AI orders chart, which will be laid out next year on the adjacent page. And I say the AI for each of the 20 battle scenarios in the book is individually designed for the particular scenario, and generally follows a kind of flow chart, but it's fairly simple. If you've played battles of the English Civil War, it's a similar kind of exercise to that. So there is a bit of input, and there's a bit of you know, it takes a little bit of time to do the AI, but once you've got the hang of it, you can whiz through that in certainly no longer than it takes you through your own turn. So you're at least spending as much time on your own turn as you are on the AI turn, and if not, you can probably get that even quicker later on. Obviously, the number of the units in the battle decreases and things speed up as well. You can generally play it in 30 to 50 minutes each battle. Plenty of replayability. The difficulty varies battle to battle. Some are easier than others. I'll leave that for you to discover for yourselves, but that is an overview. Oh, so there's terrain as well. I probably should have mentioned. Obviously, terrain has an impact. You know, trees give you a defensive bonus. Rivers detract from your ability to attack. Hills add to your ability to attack, give you an attack bonus. And towns give you a defensive bonus as well. There is line of sight. You know, for cavalry attacking adjacent, it doesn't matter, but for infantry it does. So there is full line of sight rules in the book. Because the hex distance, the range is only 3 hexes, it's fairly straightforward to decide whether something can see something else, and there are lots of examples and a full explanation of how that works, as you would expect. I think that's it for now. So look out for more videos appearing as time goes on. Cheers guys, thanks.